What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Elaboration Station. I'm your host, Tanner Westbrook, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling real good. It's exciting that a lot of this podcasting stuff is starting to come together, and I'm trying to figure out the whole social media, Instagram thing. Everybody should go follow me there, Tanner Westbrook. Pretty simple. But today I got to sit down with Cody McBroom. He's a podcaster, personal trainer, nutrition coach, and he is the founder of Boom Boom Performance. He's based out of Seattle, Washington, and we got to sit down and talk about a lot of life stuff today, how he got into personal training, his story, some of his past relationships with his family members, and we also talked about his newly born daughter and how she motivates him to succeed in life and do more than he do more than he thought he could. And it was a great conversation. So I hope you all enjoy. I certainly did. And here we go.
100%, man.
Yeah, man. So I might ask you a couple deep questions. I've been trying to listen to what you've done, and so I'm trying to make sure I throw some stuff in there that people haven't really touched on yet.
Love it. I'm with it, man. 100%.
Cool, man. So what if we just start out with a little, oh, wow, look how white my forehead is. The golf course hat, classic golf course, little tan line going on. But what if we just go with where you kind of started and how you got going in the fitness industry?
Yeah. I think it's funny because how I got into the fitness industry was just hating my body physically. And it's like this, and it created a passion and a love for it. But I think a lot of people have poor relationships with food and training and exercise and cardio and all these things because of kind of where I was, right? Like hating what you see, and then you kind of torture yourself and punch up with exercise to make it look better. And that's kind of what I did, man. I got into it because I grew up the fat kid, the chubby kid. I shouldn't say fat because I wasn't obese or anything, but I definitely was chubby. And then I had some traumatic injuries in high school and tore my ligaments in my knee, back-to-back injuries. So essentially tore my meniscus, gained some weight, came back to play soccer senior year, made captain of the varsity team, tore my ACL in the same exact knee preseason. So it was like just a major blow and just set me off, right? So now I'm not playing soccer. I never really got good grades, and the only reason I got passing grades was really because I couldn't play soccer if I didn't, right? So now I'm getting shitty grades. I got into just smoking weed and chilling and drinking and partying at a really young age. I had an older brother who was out of high school and in college. I just hung out with them all the time. So it was kind of like getting introduced to all these negative things in my life, which granted, I mean, everybody needs to experience that shit at some point, I guess, because it was a lot of fun, but kind of started heading down a negative path. And it didn't really hit me until after high school. I started going to community college, and most of my friends either went away to play sports at a university. I have all these friends doing big things. They're playing university, getting good grades, getting set up. I was in a community college, going to school for something I didn't care about, but my parents kind of forced me into it. And then I had some friends in and out of jail, getting in trouble, doing bad shit. And I just kind of had this light check, man. And I'll never forget it. I walked, I was staying in the basement at my mom's house. And I remember looking in this mirror and just seeing, it was the first time I ever analyzed my body. Like I've always been somebody who avoided the mirror. I never weighed myself. I avoided the beach. I avoided the pool. I avoided any chance I could get to really see myself shirtless or anything like that. And I remember like stopping and just like thinking like, just look at yourself. And I looked, and the first time I like really consciously became aware that I really did not like what I saw, and I was admitting it. And I think that was the big thing, is I was finally admitting that I hated what I saw. And I saw some stretch marks coming in, and I just, at that moment, it all shifted for me. And I was like, I got to do something. So I actually stopped hanging out with some of those guys that were getting into bad shit. And I just like, I need to break away from partying for a while. Started trying to get really into fitness. And I had a couple like just kind of blows in the process of that too, man. Like I think you can never really succeed without going through failure. And I think that's why I've gone so deep into creating a fitness business, is because I failed so hard at the beginning. I mean, I tried everything, dude. I tried HCG, which was like this fucking drop shit that you put in your mouth and you eat 500 calories a day. So I was like starving myself, started to lose some weight. And then I went like on a weekend getaway and I like went off the diet and gained all of it back. And it was just like this fucked up process where I said, fuck all this. And I hope I can cuss because
yeah, you're good.
Cool.
Man. You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Cool. And so I just kind of went off the diet and gained a bunch of weight back. And then I decided to go back into the process and try it again. And I remember getting a membership at this gym. And, when you get a gym membership at a big box gym, they always give you a tool. They're like, oh, we're going to, measure your body fat and do all this stuff to tell you where you're at. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like, I'll just, get my membership. They're like, oh, it's mandatory. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Okay. So I go in and they bring this person to come like measure my body fat and measure my legs and chest and stomach. And it's like, so I'm 18, almost 19, because I graduated at 17. So I think I was like barely 18. And this super hot, like probably 25 to 27-year-old walks in to measure my body fat. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is fucking embarrassing. So I get humiliated and I'm like, I'm not going back to that gym again. So now I'm like, again, like just fuck this. I'm just going to go back to chilling and doing whatever. So I kept kind of having these like just negative blows. And then I got back into it and I was actually working out at my community college, pretty chubby, had like a big knee brace on. I'm trying to do some exercises to help fix the stabilization of my knee because I blew it out and I didn't do PT. And this old dude comes up and kind of like suggests that I come to his class. He's like, hey, I could teach you a thing or two about, getting in fixing your knee. And he wasn't in shape by any, he was a little bit older. And I kind of just, as a cocky 18-year-old, look at him. What are you like? What are you talking about? Like, how are you going to teach me anything? And so he was like, why don't you stop by my class? It's called functional fitness. And I'm like, all right, man. And then days go by and I'm sitting in class and I was like, dude, screw this. And I get up, I skip class, go to his class, completely fell in love with what he was talking about, switched my degrees, forged my dad's signature to be able to do it and told him later on. And dude, I just started getting hooked, like what training actually was about and how to properly move. And like, I started knowing these little things about my diet and about my training. And I just kind of went into this rabbit hole of just reading articles and it's so weird because my life completely flipped because I wasn't the best kid. I was getting into a lot of bad shit and I completely changed everything, went down a positive route where I actually had something just positive to focus on, right? Positive to learn. I saw a light at the end of the tunnel because before that I had no plan. I had no structure. I had no like hope that I could really mount to anything because I wasn't really exceptional at anything, right? And then this thing finally happened and I got really good at it. I kind of actually pretty ripped, actually. I got so in depth in it that I ended up getting abs. And then it was like really cool because I was seeing a different part of me. Other people were seeing a different part of me. And it was just kind of this snowball effect of, for lack of better terms, positivity, man. It just kind of kept snowballing until I started training people.
Yeah, man, I was in the same boat. When I was younger, I started working out when I was like 13 because I didn't like the way I looked. My mom would take me every day after school and drop me off at the gym. I do my 2-hour workout and I never saw results. I tried freaking the fat loss pills, which were just a bunch of caffeine packed into a little pill. And I would take them at school and my hands are shaking and all that crazy stuff that you do when you're trying to do it. But yeah, it's just been the last like year that I've really like actually figured out what health and fitness means. It's not like I'm going to do this just to do this goal. It's like a full roundabout, like this is my lifestyle kind of thing. And I'm still like working out the kinks and like I'm in the beginning phases of actually figuring out how to do it and fit it into my life. But I was in the same exact boat with not liking the way I looked, going through I did a couple personal training sessions and I had a buddy that played soccer. So this is going to relate to you pretty well. He played club soccer and he was chubby. Like 8th grade, he was chubby. Freshman year, he came to school with a 6-pack. And I'm like, what did you do, dude? And so I'm like, show me what you guys are doing at training. And it was just vicious, body weight squats until you couldn't stand up anymore, wall sits, like just stuff where you're pushing that aerobic capacity to like the very edge of what you're capable of. I was just watching your video of the 100-calorie aerobike, like stuff like that where it's just, and I didn't know how far my body was capable of going until I went through some of that stuff. And ever since then, I'm like, 90% of the people I see working out, they don't even know what they're capable of. And it's just kind of one of those, when you figure it out, it's hard to like dial it back down because you go to work out and it's like, oh, I didn't get it all. There was some left in the tank. So it's one of those figuring out, and soccer is just crazy. So it's interesting to hear that's what you do. You fall off and then you go play soccer, get it back, and then you got downplayed by the injury. And it's just kind of, that shit happens to everybody. Because I try to play professional golf, and I got stuck by injury, and golf's never been the same since because I hurt my ribs. So all golf swing, you're opening up that rib cage, and it's just vicious on, it's never felt right since then. And I'm been searching for something to do, and this is kind of like the path I picked. But so I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I heard you mention your dad and forging his signature. Can you talk about like your guys' relationship growing up a little bit with your dad?
Yeah. So my dad was like I think it's funny because so I went to this event, probably it was actually last year. It's called Wake Up Warrior. And I don't know if anybody knows it, but if they look it up, it's a worldwide entrepreneurial, like, program, I guess you could call it, for men, and it covers every aspect of your life, right? Your body, your mindset, your relationships, your business. They call it something different, but it's kind of how I learned how to live my life. And the guy leading it, Gary J. White, at one point, and mind you, there's hundreds and hundreds of men, and you have to wear a black tuxedo to get in. So it's a pretty dope room. Everybody's wearing black suits, and men in this room have had an issue with their father growing up. And I swear to God, 90.9% of the guys in the room raised their hand. And it kind of triggered something in my mind, because it's funny how I think it's not necessarily stereotypical. I think it's very common in the generation of my father, and when they grew up, is like the dad just worked. Like that was the thing. Like I had a stay at home mom, and my dad worked, and he just, that's how he provided. That was his job. That was his role. And I think a lot of men got groomed into that position. So he was groomed in that position, and all he did is work. I mean, late night, he ran shit at a company. So we grew up with plenty of money. I mean, at the time I didn't realize, but my dad had a black Porsche, a black brand new F Ford 350 that was huge. My mom had a black Lincoln. Like, we had camping trips, like a big house. Like, I didn't realize how much money we had. I was a little kid. I didn't care about money. I don't like video games. So for me, it was like, I want to go outside and play hockey and do shit like that. But all I knew is that my dad wasn't around. Right. Yeah. So he worked. And in his mind, this is what I didn't comprehend. In his mind, he was providing for his family. He was going on work trips. He was staying late at work. He was doing whatever he could. He would come home and I would be asleep. I'd wake up and he'd be gone. So I literally barely ever saw him, even though we were in the same household for so long. And I think that, like, now that I own my own business. I own my own house. I help support my family. I just had a daughter. I have a fiance who lives with me. Like, now I get it, right? And I get, like, because I put myself in that role a lot by accident. And I work, and I have to pull myself back and remind myself that I don't want to be that dad. But essentially, he worked so much that I didn't really have much of a relationship with him, to be honest. And they split up, and I was in 4th grade, so I don't even know how old you are. I was pretty young, and they split up. I moved in with my mom. I actually had to move in with my grandma for a while, and then I moved in with my mom in an apartment, and it was in the hood. And it was like, you know what? I was totally fine with it because I had my friends, I had my mom, and it was good. And I was I had a lot of resentment towards my father, and we didn't have a very good relationship because he was trying to flip the script. He dropped down from being the president of a company. He bought my mom whatever she needed. He paid child support. He did all this shit so he could have custody of me. And I was just trying to reject it as hard as I could, because all I remember is that you weren't around and now you guys are divorced, right? So I was really pushed back for, man, I don't even know how long. I mean, years. And then I think it was when I was probably around like a preteen, like 14, I started kind of just, I guess, shoveling the memories down. I don't know. I just kind of just forgot about it and just let it be. And we started kind of getting along again. And I think that it wasn't until I went to that event you mentioned, and I was probably 21, I think, went to that event, that it finally all clicked. And I realized, like, the reason I sabotaged relationships, the reason I sabotaged friendships, the reason I had so many failures in my life was because a lot of it was because I was tying things back to the way my childhood was with him. And I was doing a lot of the same bad habits that he was. I mean, me and my dad are the exact same fucking person. And I'm okay admitting that now because I love him to death and we're like great friends. But once I went on that trip, I actually came back and